Date. Chapter 169 begins with Gyomei telling Sanemi to stitch up his stomach wound, assuring him that he would distract the demon to allow him to do so. Sanemi agrees and apologizes for getting into such a state. As the Stone Hashira steps in to fight the upper rank, Kokushibo notes, with excitement, that Gyomei has refined his body to its utmost limits, remarking that he hasn't seen a warrior with this strength in 300 years. Gyomei continues swinging his flail and inhaling deeply the whole time, while Kokushibo observes that the air is being drawn towards him. Finally attacking Kokushibo with his weapon, Gyomei looks on as the upper rank dodges his attack, but he quickly throws his axe at the demon as well. Kokushibo, who had been about to attack Gyomei, is forced to abandon this idea and evade the axe. He attempts to attack again, but Gyomei unleashes stone breathing, second form upper smash, which Kokushibo evades. Gyomei catches him in his chains, restraining Kokushibo. Kokushibo attempts to break free but is unable to damage Gyomei's chains. The Stone Hashira tries to cut off Kokushibo's head with his axe, but the demon dodges, only losing a lock of hair. Enraged, Kokushibo charges at Gyomei, attempting to slice off his neck, but the Hashira jumps out of the way at the last second, flinging his axe at the upper rank and only managing to tear off some of his robe. Continuing his assault, Gyomei swings his flail at Kokushibo. Although the demon evades yet again, Gyomei manages to catch Kokushibo's blade between his chains and pulls on them, shattering the blade. The two face off with stone breathing, fourth form volcanic rock, rapid conquest, and moon breathing, second form pearl flowers, moon gazing. As Kokushibo's blade finally recovers from the blow it received, he taunts Gyomei by saying that no matter what damage he receives, it will all recover. In response, Gyomei utilizes a technique he had been saving for the battle with Muzan Kibutsuji, finally revealing his demon slayer mark. Chapter 169 ends. Chapter 170 begins with Muichiro struggling to dislodge. Muichiro struggling to free himself from where he has been pinned by Kokushibo. Slowly dragging the blade out of his body with his remaining hand, Muichiro manages to extract his sword and kneels over in pain, wincing. He assesses his situation, noting that with his current injuries, he would not be of much use and that it would take some time to stop his bleeding. Realizing he does not have the same physique as someone like Tengen Yuzuri, he resolves to do his best to defeat Kokushibo and aid those still fighting. Determined, Muichiro grabs his blade and begins to run towards the fight. Meanwhile, Muichiro's attention is diverted by Genya, who calls out for some of the hair cut off from Kokushibo so that he can eat it and recover. Genya wants to fight until the end to help his brother, Sanemi. Back in the battle, Kokushibo and Gyomei face off. The demon notices Gyomei's demon slayer mark and comments that it is a pity, noting that Gyomei appears to be at least 27 years old. Kokushibo reveals that all those who had received the mark had died before turning 25, predicting that Gyomei would die that same night. He remarks that all Gyomei's efforts would go to waste and asks if Gyomei does not find that regrettable. Enraged by Kokushibo's words, Gyomei tells the demon that he and the other demon slayers were aware of the story about those with the mark dying before reaching 25, and questions what there is to regret about his life at this point. Gyomei declares that no one could become a Hashira with a half-hearted resolution and asserts that Kokushibo's words are insulting. Kokushibo attempts to explain further, saying he meant the techniques and body Gyomei had honed over the years and wonders why Gyomei cannot understand this. The Stone Hashira responds that there is nothing to understand, and that humans understand their dignity is best preserved by living and dying as human beings. He rebukes Kokushibo for forcing his pathetic worldview on others and calling it the Supreme One. Gyomei continues, stating that he had noticed Kokushibo had lied about no one with the demon slayer mark living past 25. Kokushibo tries to deny this but is interrupted by Gyomei, who asserts that there must have been one exception. Kokushibo suddenly jolts with understanding and remembrance. Satisfied by this reaction, Gyomei deduces that his theory was correct. As Kokushibo darts forward to slice at Gyomei, the Stone Hashira is able to block, and the two trade blows. Meanwhile, Sanemi, having recovered from his wounds and acquired a demon slayer mark, wastes no time attacking Kokushibo in tandem with Gyomei. The demon is surprised by their skilled coordination and reflects that all the current Hashira are marked with Demon Slayer marks. As the two Hashira continue their synchronized assault, they express gratitude for their training together in the Hashira training, which has allowed for such coordination. Chapter 170 ends. Chapter 171 begins with Muichiro checking on Genya and feeding him a fistful of hair from Kokushibo. The hair instantly heals Genya's wounds. As Genya becomes more aware of his surroundings, he marvels at his newfound speed of recovery and recalls that he still has a fragment of Kokushibo's blade he can eat to gain further strength. Suddenly, Muzan Kibutsuji's voice echoes through Genya's head, asking Kokushibo how many Hashira he has defeated and ordering him to ensure none of them escape. Genya is further impressed by the concentration of blood Kokushibo possesses. Meanwhile, Kokushibo continues to battle with Gyomei and Sanemi. He notes that the pair must be among the stronger fighters and is especially impressed by Gyomei. Kokushibo observes that Gyomei's weapon allows him to overcome his blindness by creating an echo with the chains, enabling him to judge distance and surroundings using only sound. Kokushibo decides that his best course of action would be to shatter Sanemi's blade by striking it from the side and attempts to do exactly that. However, Sanemi reacts, rotating his blade and forcing Kokushibo's blade down onto the ground before launching an attack. In tandem with Gyomei, Sanemi slices off more locks of Kokushibo's hair, impressing the demon. Gyomei manages to cut in close and lop off Kokushibo's left ear with his axe. Sanemi then performs a wind-breathing first form, Dust Whirlwind Cutter, which Kokushibo is able to dodge. Working together, Gyomei and Sanemi unleash Stone-breathing first form, Serpentinite Bipolar, and Wind-breathing seventh form, Gale Sudden Gusts, respectively. However, it is revealed that their attacks only manage to cut Kokushibo's kimono before proceeding to attack the two pillars from afar. They are left shocked by Kokushibo's new range, and see that his sword has extended, with more blades branching out from it. Kokushibo declares that if he is able to defeat Gyomei and Sanemi, then defeating everyone else will be quite easy. Chapter 171 ends. Chapter 172 begins with Sanemi being struck by one of Kokushibo's attacks, causing him to lose the index and middle fingers of his right hand. Frustrated by his inability to react in time, Sanemi knows that if it weren't for Gyomei using his chains to redirect the trajectory of the attack, he might have lost both arms. He also realizes that the smell of his rare blood is starting to lose its effect on Kokushibo, and worries that he may quickly become a burden. Meanwhile, a crow flies overhead carrying a message from Kane Abuyashiki, who asks Kira if they should send either Gyu or Tanjiro to assist in defeating the upper rank one. Kira firmly believes that Gyomei, Muichiro, and Genya can handle the situation and orders Gyu and Tanjiro to continue on their mission towards Muzan. Back at the battle, Kokushibo unleashes a moon-breathing seventh form, Mirror of Misfortune Moonlit, sending shock waves at the demon slayers from a distance. Gyomei is shocked by the range of the attack as Kokushibo continues to assault the Hashira. The demon follows up with a moon-breathing eighth form, Moon Dragon Ringtail, which catches Sanemi's ankle, causing him to bleed. Sanemi is frustrated by his inability to get close to Kokushibo's head, and must use all his skill just to dodge the demon's attacks. Kokushibo then performs a moon-breathing ninth form, Waning Moon Phases, slashing Sanemi's back and causing even more damage. Gyomei yells out to Sanemi, but the Wind Hashira tells him to forget about him. Kokushibo attempts to finish off Sanemi with a moon-breathing 10th form, Drilling slashes moon through bamboo leaves. However, Muichiro intervenes, declaring that he will not let Sanemi die and that he can still wield his blade with both hands. Meanwhile, Genya watches from behind a pillar, frozen in fear and hating his weakness. Despite his fear, he is determined to keep his brother alive and help his friends. Remembering Tanjiro's words about the weakest having the most potential, Genya resolves to do his best. He recalls how Tanjiro turned the tide against Daki and Jotaro, and how, after a certain number of combatants, people tend to prioritize the strongest, leaving their guard down against perceived weaker opponents. Determined to make a difference, Genya takes out a shard of Kokushibo's blade, ready to swallow it, and do his best to defeat the upper-rank demon. Chapter 172 ends. Chapter 173 begins with Gyomei attempting to attack Kokushibo, but he is interrupted by the upper rank's moon-breathing 16th form, Moonbow Half Moon. Frustrated by the endless array of techniques and the demon's speed, Gyomei struggles to get a read on Kokushibo's movements. He reflects on the nature of demons, noting that they are mere transfigurations of the human form, and asserts that anything a demon can do, a human could also achieve. Gyomei resolves to not be misled and focuses on refining his senses. As Kokushibo launches another attack, Gyomei, to his own surprise, briefly perceives Kokushibo's pulse and sees through his movements. Meanwhile, Muichiro, despite his injuries, attempts to close in on Kokushibo to create an opening for Gyomei or Sanemi to strike. Gyomei notices Muichiro's efforts and coordinates with Sanemi to distract Kokushibo from multiple sides, adapting to Muichiro's plan on the fly. Kokushibo, seizing the opportunity to potentially defeat all three Hashira at once, unleashes a moon-breathing fourth form, Catastrophe 10-Men Crescent Moon, targeting all of them. The three Hashira manage to dodge the attack, and Gyomei takes advantage of the moment to fling a bead into Kokushibo's right hand. This allows the Hashira to launch a counteroffensive. Sanemi attacks Kokushibo, forcing him back. Gyomei cleaves off the demon's right shoulder and arm, and Muichiro finishes the assault by stabbing Kokushibo through the abdomen. Kokushibo, astonished, reflects on how Muichiro managed to dodge his attacks despite being wounded. He deduces that Muichiro must be capable of entering the transparent world, a technique that Gyomei also demonstrated during their fight. Acknowledging the skill and strategy of the Hashira, Kokushibo plans to analyze their attacks further to develop a counterattack and demoralize them. As Gyomei and Sanemi prepare to charge at Kokushibo again, the demon readies himself to unleash another 16th form. From behind the Hashira, Genya, in his demonic form, steps out and aims his transformed gun at Kokushibo. Remembering Muichiro's advice to not hesitate, Genya resolves to slow down the demon, even if it means going down with him. He fires his gun at Kokushibo. Chapter 173 ends. Chapter 174 begins with Kokushibo quickly diverting his attack to block Genya's bullets. However, the bullets rebound off Kokushibo's blade and curve back to attack him, leaving Kokushibo shocked. He notices that Genya and his gun have transformed, now looking far more demonic than before. A large tree sprouts from the bullets, rooting Kokushibo to the ground. Recognizing these as blood demon arts, Kokushibo realizes that Genya absorbed fragments of his hair and broken bits of his sword to gain demon powers. As Kokushibo processes this, he becomes anxious and fearful as Gyomei and Sanemi lunge at him, reminding him of a past encounter. He reflects on the last time he felt so threatened, nearly 400 years ago, during a fight with his younger brother, Yorichi Tsujikuni. On the night of a blood moon, Kokushibo, then astonished by Yorichi's survival past the age of 25, faced his brother, who, despite being well over 80 years old, still exuded immense strength. Yorichi, normally reserved, showed a rare emotional side, which left Kokushibo bewildered. As Yorichi grabbed his blade, he emitted such a powerful aura that Kokushibo was left stunned and afraid. Yorichi's speed was so great that he managed to slice through Kokushibo's neck before Kokushibo could even react. Despite Kokushibo's rage and desire to kill Yorichi, he knew that he would die with Yorichi's next attack. However, that attack never came, as Yorichi died standing on his feet, resting on his blade. Chapter 174 ends with Kokushibo howling and emitting crescent-shaped attacks. Chapter 175 begins with Kokushibo unleashing shock waves from his body, slicing through the demon's slayers. Genya is vertically sliced in half by the shock waves. Kokushibo then grows blades from his body, pushing all the demon's slayers back. Despite this, Muichiro stubbornly maintains his grip on his blade, which is still piercing Kokushibo's torso. Determined to kill Kokushibo and save the other Hashira's strength for the battle against Muzan, Muichiro tightens his grip on his blade. To his and Kokushibo's shock, the blade suddenly turns red. Kokushibo stiffens in agony as the bright red blade sears his very cells. Taking advantage of Kokushibo's immobility, Sanemi slices at his neck, while Genya activates a blood demon art from afar, causing the flesh bullets still inside Kokushibo to grow a tree out of his back. Kokushibo tries to swipe at Genya but is unable to activate his technique due to the interference. Gyomei attempts to cleave Kokushibo's neck with his flail, but Kokushibo resists. Gyomei then tries to attack from below with his axe, but Kokushibo manages to keep it away with his blade. The demon is unable to activate his own blood demon art because the tree is consuming too much of his blood. Kokushibo reflects on a past conversation with his brother Yorichi. Kokushibo had asked Yorichi about his plans for succession, worried that their perfect breathing techniques might fade from the world. Yorichi had responded that their techniques were not as significant as Kokushibo believed and that there would come a day when others would surpass them. Yorichi had expressed confidence that they could reach the end of their days in peace. Meanwhile, Sanemi jumps and swings his blade down on Gyomei's flail, forcing it down to chop off Kokushibo's neck. Both weapons turn bright red at the contact points, and together they muster enough strength to sever Kokushibo's neck and snap his blade in two. Chapter 175 ends with Kokushibo's defeat. Chapter 176 opens with Kokushibo reflecting on his brother's words about how their successors would surpass them and reach even greater heights. He acknowledges the strength and talent of the demon slayers fighting him, noting their persistence despite severe injuries, their ability to use blood demon arts even though they are human, and their determination to keep fighting despite their blood loss. Kokushibo is enraged by the thought of losing, resolving not to be defeated. He manages to stem the bleeding from his neck stump, much to the shock of Gyu, who urges Sanemi and Kami to keep attacking to honor the sacrifices of Genya and Muichiro. Fueled by this, Sanemi unleashes the wind-breathing 8th form, primary gale slash, at Kokushibo, while Gyu follows up with the stone-breathing 5th form, arcs of justice. Kokushibo manages to dodge Gyu's attack and slices off Muichiro's sword hand. He attempts to pull out the boy's blade and remove the stump Genya had summoned, but Kokushibo's head slowly begins to regenerate. The new head is monstrous compared to his previous form. As the Hashira continue their onslaught, Sanemi charges at Kokushibo. The demon sees the reflection of his new, monstrous face in Sanemi's blade and is shocked and disgusted by his own appearance. This reflection brings back memories of his brother's words from their childhood, where Kokushibo had vowed to become the strongest samurai in the country after his brother. Reflecting on these memories, Kokushibo questions whether this new, monstrous form is what he truly wanted. The spot near his stomach where Muichiro had stabbed him begins to crumble away on its own. Despite his attempts to muster more strength, Kokushibo is completely shocked when Sanemi and Gyu manage to cleave off his new head, leaving him unable to use his blood demon art. Recalling his brother's words from their final battles and questioning his own motives, Kokushibo comes to realize that he had only ever wanted to be like his brother, Yorichi Tsujikuni. Feeling that his life and deeds have been a disgrace, he acknowledges his failures and finally disintegrates into dust. Chapter 176 ends with Kokushibo's defeat. If you liked my video, then consider subscribing my channel.